there are four main bosses. I'm sure that I don't know if there's any intermediaries where it goes Jim Herd, Kip Fry, Bill Watts, Eric Bischoff by '93, and everyone has a Jim Herd story who's ever dealt with them.
Yeah, well, I was in the AWA at the time. I had the AWA belt, and we were trying to get Vern to shut down the AWA a year or so before he did, because he couldn't compete with losing money, and the Crockett combination with them didn't work out. So he finally shut the door. And as soon as he did, I got a call from Jim Herd. And those were the days now when there was WCW and WWE, and that was like it. So that was the day when the contract started. So no one could steal anybody's stars again. So Jim Herd called me and offered me a big-ass contract, because it was the time, God bless him, when Turner was giving away money like he was printing it in the basement, So Jim Herd offered me, a job to come down. So I came down. I said, yeah, great. So I went back to, and with WCW now, and did a little wrestling. And I was getting in probably close to 40 or so, which in wrestler terms, in the ring for 20 years, getting beat up and it's in good shape. And it wasn't long before me and Arn became a tag team. They teamed me up with Arn. Because by himself, Arn was great, but he wasn't a super great talker, and he was a perfect tag team guy with the Four Horsemen and him and Bob. But they put me and Arn together because they really didn't know what to do with Arn, and I still had a lot of heat. But when me and Arn clicked, the Enforcers were over. When we walked out, me and Arn, into a crowd, the place sounded like you were back in the 70s, whoa, yeah, And so that was a real good team, and that was under Jim Herd. And Kip Fry, I think he was a lawyer that might have been in there a while, and Ole was helping him, Ole Anderson, because Jim Herd was gone. Mm-hmm. And Ole used to pull his hair out, because he would tell, Fry and the TBS big shots, why are you giving these guys contracts for $400,000, $500,000? They're not drawing shit. They don't know what they're doing, because they had a bunch of new guys in there like Sting and Lex Luger and some other guys. And they didn't know them. They just had invented the clothesline. So guys would run into their arm like idiots, which is still going on. So, Ole was there for a while saying, why are you paying all? It's ridiculous. And the TBS people said, hey, if I don't spend all this money they gave me, they won't think I'm doing my job. So I don't want to get fired. So the funny bit was, then after Kip Fry, Bill Watts came in. And my God, Bill Watts was a a-hole in real life. But he knew it, and he was proud of being an a-hole. He was an a-hole. Proud of it. The TBS people, when they brought Bill Watts in after a few months, wanted to kill themselves, because he was saying, all kind of comments, about people, from the office that, was politically incorrect when all that crap started. The office was on the 13th floor. He'd be on the balcony taking a pee over the balcony, which was coming down on the food court. They couldn't believe it. But Bill Watts took the Enforcers, me and Arn, which could have gone longer, and they formed a group, the Dangerous Alliance. And I didn't like being part of a group. I was never big on tag team, but at 41, 42, tagging with Arn was great. But I didn't want to be part of a group with five guys and Paulie, because then you only become as good as the group. So right before Bill Watts got canned, I had this idea, because my one knee was bugging me. I never blew nothing up, but I had a couple of cartilage tears. So when the group started, I said, hey, guys, I got to get a knee scope, so I got to take a couple months off. And the company was great. TBS paid for the little surgery, and I was home floating in the pool, recovering. And I got a call one day from an executive producer and says, hey, Larry, Jesse Ventura just quit. Can you come down here to help us out and do a voiceover over some syndicated shows that were already put together but had no voiceover? So I went, yeah, I'm getting bored, sitting around. I'll come down. They're paying me anyway. So I went down and voiced over a couple of shows. And the executive producer came running in the door of the little sound room and went, Larry, you're the greatest guy we've ever heard. Do you want to be a color commentator? We'll give you this much a year. And I went, what? So, I mean, they offered me a contract. I was making double what I was making being a wrestler for working a day a week. And then when Nitro started, I got a bigger raise and worked a day and a half a week. But that saved me, it saved my body, because guys, over their 40s were starting to fade away. And that gave me a good 10 years of still being in the public eye with new generations of fans, especially around the New World Order time. It was so huge. And I'm the one that kind of organized how it happened. And then when I did Bischoff and Hall, those were the two biggest buy rates WCW ever did.
97, I believe, was
that's how the broadcasting started. I never planned on being a broadcaster.
Well, it's funny because you retired. I mean, according to Wikipedia, you retired at the age of 40. And I was thinking now that would pretty much make you just, if you were in wrestling now in WWE, that you would only just be coming into the main events now at 40 years old.
Yeah, well, I mean, really, in terms of wrestlers, I mean, they really don't get over until they look like men. I mean, like I'll fast forward and I see some of the new guys start, and even in AEW, half the guys are 190 pounds and look like they're in college. I mean, if you put them in the ring next to a George Steele or a 300-pound Koloff, I mean, they would look like little kids. So it was...
Me, basically, is what you say.
But men really don't start looking like men until they're in their 30s. So... But people, see a big, scary man walk out, and they go, I don't care what wrestling is, I'm not getting in the ring with that guy. Holy cow.
I know you don't have the highest opinion of Bill Watts, but you must have absolutely loved Erik. You must have absolutely loved Erik Watts.
Erik Watts?
Yeah.
Well, that was the joke of the time, because, and another reason I decided to do the knee thing and get out of the group, because Bill Watts' idea when he came in was that everybody over 40 has been around too long and was getting to be old news. And that was his excuse for pushing Erik Watts. And Erik Watts was a nice kid, but not good. I mean, he wasn't it. And, when I saw, Erik Watts beat Arn Anderson in the ring, it was just stupid. And the people didn't even buy it. I mean, so Bill Watts was part of his being an a-hole kind of guy. But that's another reason I got out. And shortly after I started doing, actually probably before the broadcasting, I think Bill Watts was gone. And then Erik wound up with the job. And me and Erik went back because he started in the AWA. He came into the office and he was like a sales hustler. Erik was a great hustler. And he was hustling, like the merchandise when it first came out and selling Rubber Ninja crap. And somehow he wound up being executive producer. And one of the things I did was I became a private pilot. And I used to fly little planes, Pipers, and from town to town, because I got sick of driving my butt off in the 70s. So I think in 74 or 5, I had my pilot's license. And I flew for years, Other guys would be in their car for 8 hours. I'd be in the plane for 2.5 hours. So, but I used to take Erik with me because he'd go to the towns and be the ring announcer or something, or some TVs. And it was funny because one day we walked into the AWA office to do interviews on interview day, and our interview guy, Larry Nelson, disappeared. No one knew what happened to Larry Nelson. He was gone from his apartment. All his stuff was there. We thought maybe at first he got murdered somewhere. And then we find out later he took off and fled to Florida because he had so many DUIs. They caught him again, and he was about to go to jail for so many DUIs. So Larry just left, disappeared for a while. And when we walked in, there was no Larry. So Vern went, "Here, Erik, you do it." And Erik went, "What? Me do it?" And I was Erik's first interview. The first interview he ever did with somebody was me. He's standing there, and I walk in, and he says something, and I looked at him. But the way he did it, because he was kind of nervous his first time doing it, I cracked up and laughed in his face. I couldn't help it. I knew he was scared to death, and it was just funny. It's a funny story, but if you would have told me then that, hey, this guy you're flying around and laughing at is going to wind up running the wrestling company that does the biggest business ever, 15 years down the road, I would have told you were nuts. But it worked out good. So when Erik was the boss, that worked out good for me too. So I could help him out without really being in the office. Greg Gagne was in the office. Erik was there. I think Kevin Sullivan. But I could help him out without being there. And I golfed most of the time.
Did Erik Bischoff change over time? Because when you've got all that pressure on you as he wasn't originally executive vice president, but he worked his way up to that over the course of the next couple of years. Does that change? Did his personality change? Was he easier, more difficult to work with?
You know what? Erik really didn't change. I mean, he was kind of a natural hustler, salesman, hustler. And when he got in there, I think, things worked out good, but he listened to people. Like when the New World Order idea came around and I laid some things out and changed some things, Erik listened. And then, as it was going, Hogan would come up with some ideas or Hall and Nash, and Erik would listen to them. In fact, he got so into it that he wanted to be on TV and get in. That's how he got involved, becoming the most hated guy. And Erik did a great job. I mean, people wanted to kill him. The New World Order stuff in the end of the 90s when all the fans, were reading dirt sheets and thought they knew everything. I mean, it was different. We got them. I mean, no matter how smart they thought they were, they hated Erik so much. I had so much heat put on him, and he did such a great job that people were diving over the barriers and grabbing him and trying to punch him out. And so it worked out good. But Erik, he just was kind of a born hustler and got into it and really loved it. But he'd listen to guys that knew what they were doing. And, he learned.
Do you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Enough is enough! Booty, poo, candy ass! I had him writhing in pain with my sharpshooter. Rocky! I am not a nugget!
Stick him straight up your candy ass!
I kicked your leg out of your leg.
The Rock has come back!